Okay, so I think we can go ahead and start now. Thank you all for coming today. Our speaker today is Caroline Bao. She's a very seasoned marketing executive and has over 15 years of marketing experience and leadership. She's worked at a variety of high-tech companies, including Facebook, Visa, and Yahoo, and she's currently teaching a course at Rice University for their MBA program. So hopefully she'll have some good insight to offer us today. And this webinar is going to be about how to be a business leader and some skills that I think we could all use if we want to be a leader in the business field. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Bao.
Thank you for the introduction, Jacqueline, and thank you for you all working hard at TYE. I'm super glad to be your guest speaker. More importantly, I wanted to really thank everybody who is on the call today for learning and hearing about some of the life stories of mine and how they shaped my belief, and with some of the key takeaways I want to impart to you, because I really found that these are some useful tips for anyone who aspires to be a leader. You could be a leader either as a leader in business world. You also could be a leader in social affairs. You could be a leader in even daily lives. Really just about how you design your life in a way that you would ultimately enjoy. So I hope we apply that lens as we kind of hear some of my stories and some of my key takeaways. And I consider this as leading the life that we enjoy, because ultimately life is not a race. It's not about earning medals. It's not about winning or crushing others. Life is an individual journey that we all choose a path that best suit ourselves. And what do I mean by that? So this is my story. If you don't remember anything at all, I want you to remember, don't ever desire to fit in. Desire instead to lead. And this is almost a life-changing sort of way to think about, considering my own background, my upbringing, because I was taught in a way, but much more about just be book smart, score well in school, and you will find a job that pays you okay, and that'll be fine. Ultimately, however, I reflect back on 15 years in high tech and just the number of opportunities that were presented to me, and I eventually managed to kind of seize. I realized this phrase has so much truth to it. And the rest of the webinar, I'm going to share with you a little bit of a blueprint about how you get there. A little bit more about me. I know Jacqueline has made an excellent introduction of me, but besides teaching at Rice, I am also an angel investor. I've made angel investments in a few technology startups, such as Volta Charging Station, which provides a free electric car charging station around the country. They are tracking about thousands of stations now. I also advise startups, and I also invest into real estate. We've done 3-4 different deals recently. And obviously, I also create courses online, and I'm on Alpha 3. I run and I hike. That's a lot of things. How do you do that? It's, you know, what I used to think of my life was much more linear. Get a job, get married, have kids, have a life, you know, have a family. That's pretty much it. One family, one job. How do you do all these things while not like making yourself all crazy? And is this what I like? I realized this is what I like because I like to push myself and I'm curious. I'm always learning. So I actually really enjoying all this sort of multifaceted life. But life is not the same as what I imagined. As I said, I used to dream I would just be a mom. I have a couple cute kids. If you look at Instagram, that's kind of how I used to imagine myself. We have matching outfit. We all look nice. We look always polished. Reality of my life is more like this. You are always doing several things at one time. But for guys, I know there are guys in the audience too, we may think life is so dull. It's like, I could be bored to death right now. Once you actually go to work, it would feel like almost every day is a fire drill. And we all have to be multitasking. But sometimes it's important to pause and think about, is this too much? Is this too crazy? What is the actual path to joy? I consider, if I were to redesign my life all over again, or if I were to advise you guys, this is sort of the blueprint, which is think about what's the purpose of our lives. What are we here for? Are we here to become a sage? Are we here, if we, what is the gift we're giving to this world that we're in? That's sort of the purpose. The next thing is, once you define your purpose, you want to have a plan. And I will share with you a couple of toolkits around how you think about these planning, identifying your strengths, prioritizing your time, and develop your brain trust, which will be there for you to help you achieve even bigger goals. So I'll break these down one by one. The very first thing is to identify purpose, because ultimately in life, a lot of us think of life as a pursuit of happiness. We all have heard of that. You probably have read the book about that, right? The pursuit of happiness. Is that really it for life? More often than not, you'll realize happiness can be defined as short lasting. And that's not sort of the ultimate, the end all and be all, especially if we think happiness comes from, oh, I really wish I could have scored first on that test, or I really wish I've gotten that specific gift or car, or getting into that college. Life is not about these small, I shouldn't say small, these big achievements even, because they're still temporary. That sounds kind of crazy. What do you mean? What do you mean by life is not about happiness? Life is about purpose. And purpose, how do you think about that? It's sort of like the ultimate vision that you have for your life. Because if we think about, we could be a number of different things, like I list out all the different things that I do, but ultimately I'm here to serve one purpose. And all of those things, ultimately, somehow they are strapped together, that they are contributing to some way that makes, it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it does drive human race forward. How do we contribute towards that? Or maybe your purpose in life is, I really care about others, and I really want to provide that empathy, that compassion that maybe other people didn't seem to have the time or decided to do. And that's how Mother Teresa, for example, made such an impact in society. She may not be rich. She's in fact one of the poorest, but she is one of my idols, because her life is served and centered around one greater purpose. So that's one thing I want to really call out. And one of the ways you can kind of think about how you design or really reflect and think through the purpose of your life is, this is a little bit crazy, but this is called the Tombstone Test. Have you ever thought, obviously not for most of you, we're all just growing, you're sprouting. I look at you guys, all I think of is, I am so jealous because you guys are so young and you have so many more future and opportunities ahead of you. This is crazy for me to say it, but think about, and you can do this as an annual planning. Periodically ask yourself, how would you want people to talk about or write about you if 100 years, 200 years from now, someone were to visit your tomb? What is that saying on your tombstone? Because once you have set that foundation, it's almost like building a house. You decide how you want the foundation to be. Then the rest of them will fall into the right places. So this is really, really important. And I'm almost wanted to kind of pull you guys out of your, I know many of you are high school students, so you will feel overwhelmed, because high school itself is all about, you can't make a mistake. Every exam probably counts. And there are a whole number of extracurricular activities you need to do. You have to checklist of a lot of things. But sometimes pause and think about, what is that main purpose you are here to do? How do you really stand out as that unique person? When we all say, be unique, this is how it makes you unique. So think about that. And I encourage you guys, if you want, if you're a computer, do a quick search, Tombstone Test. What does it mean? Who have done this? Many famous people have done this. And I periodically receive this advice from my executive coach to think about, how do you live the life that you design and you really enjoy? Then let's take a pause. Let's say we've decided, let's use Mother Teresa as another example. Say, hey, let's say we aspire to be like her. Then the next thing would be to plan and prioritize. Why do we need a plan? Why do we prioritize? Because with no plans, it's almost like a map, right? Without a map, you have a higher chance of going off road, going lost, and you don't get to your destination faster. So you want to have a plan and you want to prioritize. The plan, one of the things I really think I found very helpful is to think about, begin with the end in mind. And this is a famous quote from Stephen Covey. One of his most famous books is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So from that angle, when you think about what is the end goal, you work your way backwards. Let's say big goals or small goals. A small goal could be, I want to begin acing this particular subject, whatever that is. Let's call it math. I used to hate math until I realized math is really useful at work. So for those of you who hate math, don't be afraid. The amount of math you use at work is not too crazy, but you just have to be logical. So let's say we want to ace math, and we need to think about, in terms of math, what are some key areas that we are always stuck? Then you work your way backwards. Or if it's a bigger goal, let's say, hey, I really want to start a business. And this is precisely what I teach at Rice, is how do you take an idea into a successful business? That seems to be really hard. Once you identify your end goal, you work your way backwards. You learn the skills, you identify the path, and you break big tasks into smaller, achievable milestones. That's kind of what I mean by planning. Then prioritize. What is the hardest thing or the most precious resource we have is actually time. It's not money. Everybody has been given just about the same amount of time, 24 hours per day. Nobody gets any more. And when we are thinking about prioritization and we say, hey, I want to double down, I want to throw everything in to do this one thing, I want to stay super focused, what are we investing? We're investing time. And the amount of time we put in is going to be contributing to the outcome we want. Have you guys all heard of this saying, 10,000 hours? Thumbs up? You heard of it? That's right. Eventually, it's almost everything is almost possible to be mastered, provided you put in enough time. But you need to prioritize your time, and you need to figure out throughout your 24 hours per day, don't spend your time equally on everything. That's one of the problems I had. Had I go back to the 15-year of myself, the 20-year-old self, I think that's the biggest advice I would have told myself is be choiceful, be picky with the stuff we spend time on. Because if this is such a gloomy, I just said Tombstone Test, now I'm telling you about the death clock. Why? Because there's a website. This is actual real website. If you type in the death clock, you actually see the website gives you a number of questions. You put in your date of birth. You put in a number of other things like your health and etc. It'll give you a predicted death time. This sounds so bad. No, because it basically flips the vision of how your days should be prioritized in its head and tell you, hey, guess what? You think you can always wait until tomorrow to do something. You think you can wait until next month to do something. But if that's really the thing that's most important, do that ASAP, because that's how you can really be disproportionately prioritizing, ruthlessly prioritizing your time so you can accomplish the impact. And that's the thing that at Facebook, at Google, one of the things we always look for in the people that we're hiring for, we ask them, how do you prioritize your time? Because that shows a sense of self-discipline, that shows analytical skills, it shows that they think through things and they don't spend time on everything equally. So that's something super important. Then we've talked about plan and prioritization. let's look at how you do that, because not everybody is built by the same mode. We're not the same, right? We're all super unique and different. Maybe someone is super good, like Michael Phelps. Obviously, he probably is much better built body-wise as a swimmer. If you give me 10,000 hours, I may not get that medal that he got. But if we identify our strengths and be very purposeful with how we leverage our strengths and align that with our passion, instead of making work as work, chore as chore, we really turn it around and make it a passion that also leverage our strengths. Another person that I found fascinating in terms of leveraging their strength is Marie Kondo. We all have heard of the decluttering. I don't know if you all have, but for us, the housewives or the household officers, chief household officers, that's our titles now. We all have heard of that. And she was a housewife. All she did was she's just very good at organizing and turned her strength into a hobby. Now it's a profession. So how do you do that? This is a thing that at Facebook, we have every new employee does. We have every new employee do this exercise. It's called love or loathe it. So on the left-hand side, let's assume this is a new person. We say, hey, what kind of things do you like doing? Do you love doing? And when you say love doing, it also includes things that just gives you energy. You can do it over and over and you won't get tired. In this particular example, this person says, I love data analytics. I love creative writing. I love communicating with people. I love solving problems, working with teams. But what do you loathe? And it's okay to be very truthful with yourself. Maybe this person will say, oh my gosh, I hate public speaking. The moment I step on stage, I freeze. Or I hate confrontation. Or I hate receiving negative feedback. Oh, there's another one that's like almost myself. I can see it. I hate mechanical understanding. Give me a new electronic, I will not read the user manual. And I tell everybody that outright. And the funny thing at Facebook is it's completely okay for you to tell your manager, tell your coworker and say, I loathe doing A, B, C things. And why do we do that? Because it sounds like kind of crazy, because as a student, I don't know if you guys are, but at the time when I was a student, you are not supposed to outright tell people you hate doing certain things, because you're expected to be the checklist checker, that you are supposed to do everything. Does that sound like you guys, or you guys are okay to tell your teacher, I hate doing certain things? Are you allowed to say I hate certain things? Thumbs up. No. At work, luckily you have some from a grown-up standpoint, it is completely okay to say I hate doing certain things. But do this exercise with yourself, even if you don't tell your teacher. Go ahead and do this exercise. Identify. Perhaps you would say, I hate debating. I just like to play nice with people. Identify those traits. And there's actually a book, it's called Career Planning for Dummies. And once you kind of have figured out these core skills, you kind of overlap that and say, oh, you know what? Maybe I just hate taking orders from people, but I am very analytical and I remember things really well. That actually will give you an idea that becoming your own boss, becoming a doctor is a better route that you would enjoy more because you call the shot, versus I really like to play nice with people. All I enjoy is building consensus. That is actually a good kind of indication. Business management, people management, sales manager, like those are different career paths. So do this exercise early. You don't have to decide on if this is the only thing you want to do, but this will help you. In my earlier career, I didn't know this. I just naturally gravitated towards certain things that were presented to me. Luckily, I had a couple mentors who identified my core strength and guided me a path. Initially, I thought I was going to learn comparative literature because I love reading books and I love just, romance books. Anyone? Hands up. If your mom is in the audience, don't raise your hand. But that was all I wanted to do until when I was applying for different jobs, Someone saw that I was in the student government. I was already on the debate team. And he said, why don't you try this sales leadership job? And sometimes you will meet these people. They will guide you. But what's even going to give you the edge is to do this exercise often and early. The next thing, I kind of created a quick map for you guys as you think about whether you want to be in the business leadership. I observed the direct reports that I have had in the years and realized sometimes I receive young professionals who are really eager to be promoted and said, hey, I think I'm ready because I have strong thought leadership. I can think independently. I know exactly where our company, our product is supposed to go. And I feel so frustrated that we're not there. Why are we already not developing this new product? Or I would have direct reports saying, I am so great with public speaking. You know, I excel at it. I present really well, and people like my speaking. Why are you not promoting me? Without realizing, there are some fundamental building blocks, and this is how I kind of turned that inside around and said, you know, to help my people develop, let me just guide them to think about, if you are currently an individual contributor, think about some of the building blocks as your kind of fundamental skills. Your fundamental skills as an excellent individual contributor should include time management, meeting management, interpersonal skills, decision making, having the empathy to think what the other people may need or want, and be able to also managing up. Managing up essentially means whoever is your direct supervisor, you are willing and able to spend time and develop this relationship where you two each trust each other. And that's a super interesting point because, again, my original training, including MBA, it was not really illuminated upon me to think about mastering some of these building blocks early. I've always been curious, so I won't say curiosity was an issue for me, but managing up was actually not a thing for me. Frankly, meeting management was not a thing that really stood out uniquely for me. So it took me many wounded roads and roads many years later to finally got those pieces together. Then to started becoming a senior individual contributor. This IC here means individual contributor, and become people manager. But can you be a people manager without all of those? It's possible. Just be upfront and tell people and recognize that I may not be an excellent, let's say, decision maker because I like to drive consensus, but I trust you all, and I would love for us to arrive at a decision based on team wisdom. So being an actual sort of person that knows who your strengths are and be willing to collaborate with your people and leverage this kind of soft skill map to identify what are some core skills us as we starting out with our career are really needing to cultivate. So let's look at our last one, develop your brain trust. What does that mean? So brain trust is a concept that's really important. Just one quick sec. Apologies. The brain trust concept is very interesting because what we have just touched upon are things you can do to enrich yourself, to get you a focused achiever that has a clear plan, that has all the soft skills, but we are not in this world alone. There's always going to be more than us. That's the only way we can achieve bigger things. So be conscious about brain trust as a concept and think about the people who believe in you, the people who enrich you, the people who are willing and able to lift you up. And don't be afraid to be choiceful with who you spend time with. Again, prioritize. Think about what kind of people, what kind of things, what kind of activities energizes you, gives you the experiences you're seeking and willing to develop that mutual trust with you. That's how you can really enjoy each step and each day. That's sort of a quick rundown on some of the ideas, tips, down my memory lane, and share with you guys. So I'll pause here for questions.
Wow, thank you. That was very informational, and I'm sure everyone learned a lot. I know I did. So now we can take questions. So feel free to type them in the chat or say them out loud.
Hi, so I'm Leo, and I just had a quick question. So you said you were teaching an MBA with Rice, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Where could I find that? Like, as a high school student, am I allowed to take something like that, or yeah?
Yeah, most business schools do take students after they have had a couple of years of working experience. But as a high schooler, I encourage you to check on soft skills as well as business courses that are offered near, I believe the community college, they usually have business courses as well as the soft skills. MBA ultimately offers interested students a very systematic training on business management methodology as well as soft skills.
A question in the chat. How did you find what career path you want to pursue?
It's a good question because, and I want to assure you guys, if you don't yet know, it is completely okay. We sometimes joke, even in our 40s, we don't know what we want to do when we grow up, and it's completely okay. To identify a career path, I think it's important to really identify ultimately what your goals are. Say, for instance, your goal is, I really want to have a ton of experience in terms of, let's say, in the new driverless car industry. That may be a very vaguely defined goal, but if that is something that really drives you, that gives you energy, you remember the love and the loathe it, pursue that. And sometimes what you thought was the only opportunity might actually be amplified because other people saw you have other skills. In my story was, I was actually trying to apply for a job as a regional sales admin. It was just an administrative work with a company called Nestle. This is way years back before MBA. But the hiring manager saw my resume and basically said, hey, do you not want to be a sales promotion supervisor? Because I think you had the skill set from your other experiences. So I would hire someone else for the admin job. You please take this job. And it was a completely unadvertised opportunity. So, when you are early in your career, do what really interests you, but make sure every bet you take, you give it your best, because all of these experiences will build up as your portfolio of sort of the skill set that will help to propel you to the next opportunity.
So I had another question, and it was about how do I come up with a business idea, and how do I measure the feasibility of it?
Oh, wow. That's precisely what I teach at Rice. There are a bunch of literature already around this, and this is a 5-week course with the students doing a lot of customer research. So I'll try to boil it down in the next couple of minutes. To identify business ideas, you want to start first identifying customer pain points. So you can write down just even broadly a list of problems that you think exist, and you can connect that with why doesn't someone already. Write it all down, then identify a couple of key problems that you think are intriguing. Go do customer research. You interview the intended people and say, hey, if I were to do something to fix this problem, so at that point, only validate the problem. If I were to fix this problem, are you willing to pay? After that, you come back and say, now I understand your problem. if I were to provide this XYZ solution, would that be interesting for you? That's the third phase, which is validating the solution. Then you want to validate their willingness to pay. Hey, if I have this ready, would you be willing to pay? This is there are a whole bunch of different methodologies, but other than after that, once you get the signal that's strong enough, sometimes you would ask people and say, hey, give us your credit card number or pay a $5 deposit, which is what you see on Indiegogo. All of these are just step-by-step clear signs. Then that's at that point, you will do analysis around how big is the market. And then you would decide on go, no go. I have books I can recommend you guys. I can maybe email the TYE organizers. We can share back later for the students.
Yeah, we're gonna send out an email at the end of this to like with the recording and like recap everything. So yeah, we'll include those if you guys are interested. And we have another question from Victoria in the chat. Do you have any advice for students who want to major in business?
Yes, that's a good question. I think I highly encourage almost all of you guys to take some business courses. Because let's say, I mentioned earlier to say, you may want to just be a doctor. You don't have to take orders from other people. But if you're a doctor, you may likely still run your own practice. If you run your own practice, you would like to know how you run your business with enough cash flow. You can pay your staff on time, etc. So ultimately, everybody should take some business courses, but to become a business leader, identify opportunities where you can hone in on your soft skills. Business is slightly different from technical career tracks where business can be accomplished with greater impact if we can inspire people and organize people's output through the same angle. So this is a more of an amplifying job than if you are just a technical expert where you work with your hands or you work with your brain for the, whatever input you have is whatever output you get. Business is more about molding several different people together and use the sort of combined wisdom of the community to accomplish something bigger. So soft skills are really critical.
For those high school students who want to be entrepreneurs, where should they start?
I think they want to actually. I actually found it's very interesting that there are a lot of high schoolers able to start new businesses. I highly recommend you guys to think about what's relevant in your daily life where you have the skill set to make an impact. So think about that methodology I was just saying. First, identify what problems there are. What is a gap that is not being met? And also, don't forget the love and loathe it. I mean, obviously, there's always people who need dog walking, for example. I'm not a dog person. I probably wouldn't start a business doing that. So, combine business needs with your core skills and your area of interest. But be conscious. The fact you're asking this question, I think you're halfway there. Be conscious, be mindful, and think about where you can identify opportunities where you can make a meaningful contribution. I've heard of what TYE and what you guys came about. That is the precise right way. It may have started, I don't know if everybody in the audience knows about TYE's experience. If you guys, are willing to share, please do. What I heard was a story that I was very inspired, right? It started with a small sort of, we're already helping with some kids at home. We might as well make this a bigger movement. Start small and think about how you scale it up. But be mindful, be an intentional person is your very first step. Oh, don't forget to leverage your parents' resources. For beginners, if you have parents who work at Facebook, we give every employee a free $250 Facebook advertising credit. So if you have a business and your parents happen to work at Facebook, you have a good advertising budget.
For those, if someone's already started a business, and like they're starting off, where would you like, what suggestions would you give for initial marketing?
Good question. Whenever you're thinking about marketing, the very first thing you want to ask is, do we have product market fit, PMF? Because if the product doesn't have product market fit, either you lose money every sale you make, or you will acquire customer, but you may not retain them. That's not ideal. Once you feel like, wow, people are calling me, I can't make enough of what they want, or I'm providing a service, but my time is almost booked to full, that is actually the sign you want to start doing more marketing, because at that point, you know the formula of how to replicate what works. And in terms of marketing, always start with customers. Who are your core customers? Where are they? How they look like? Write all of those down and identify where and how you can engage with those customers, prospects who look like your customers. So this process then becomes somewhat simple. It's not about cold calling, but it's about identifying people that look like the customers who love you. You know, let's make it more specific. Let's say my service is pool supplies, Leslie's Pool Supply. Then my marketing would be, I first need to figure out people who have a pool. And also, not only that, but I need to figure out people who have that level of affordability, who actually value a clean pool versus a deserted pool. Then the third cut is, now that I know these are the people who have this kind of a amount of annual income, they live in these zip codes, I need to figure out what's the most effective way to reach these people in those areas. Let's call it, Los Altos Hills. If that's my target area, I then do a study to figure out, how do you reach people in the local community? Maybe I'll go drive by, drop off flyers, and I'll be mindful of testing it, see if that works. So always start with your customer and let your customer's preferences lead you.
Keep like asking any questions in the chat if you have them. I think we have time to go over a couple more questions. And if there's anything you want to ask Ms. Bao privately, we'll provide her contact information in our email, like recap, and you guys can always reach out. Oh, another question. For high school entrepreneurs, how can they connect with other business people beyond the teachers and parents?
That's a good point. For high schoolers, I encourage you all to explore the online communities where startup and business owners connect. So in the startup scene, we have some of these pitch days, and there are a lot of the meetup groups that are related to startups. And don't forget, there's also a couple of famous incubators in the Silicon Valley area, such as Y Combinator, such as I think in around Bay Area, there are a lot of these incubators that you may want to explore, because they would probably have an opportunity to have a public event that you want to attend. Once you start attending some of these public events, you can connect with people who are either in the industry you're interested in or in the businesses you're interested in, and develop one-on-one relationship with some of these business leaders.
And we have another question in the chat. Are high school entrepreneurship contests worth the time?
I think so, because when you join these entrepreneurial contests, it's not so much just about winning a prize and put it on your college application, but it's about going through that process to learn the methodology and to learn how other folks are thinking and ideating their business and approaching their business plans. So by associating yourself with the peers who are as driven as you, that's another benefit. And the methodology that you will be judged on helps you to structure your approach with approaching to business plans. I think I forgot to give you guys another advice for the question earlier about where are the other communities you can join besides parents and school. Is actually is in terms of these competition, meaning reach out to not only the competition at school, but also look out for what are some business plan competition elsewhere that you can enter. So not only I say it's a good thing, I actually encourage you to do more if you can. And a lot of these, luckily these days, are done virtually, which is really removing the barrier of entry for some of you guys who may not be driving just yet.
How can people find out what they can contribute to existing situations?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Identify, I think there are a couple ways. If you have a good idea, such as, hey, why didn't someone build an app? And those are the things you can already do directly. Go ahead and try it, but don't forget to also always find like-minded brain trust friends who may share the same passion with you, and bounce off ideas. That's another way. And also, I think it's important to think about, if you were to start a new business, don't worry about making it world famous just right off the bat. Identify a small area where, either you start something brand new and that is good for the local business, but make it profitable, or you identify other organizations or other startups that may be needing help. So that could include going to job boards and look for where people are hiring, and connect with also startup founders and offer your help to say, if you could use someone to do a website, or if you could use someone to run some numbers, here are some of the things I can do. The other thing that's actually very interesting, I think maybe it's a blue ocean opportunity, is to build your own personal internet brand. I, as a mother of three, I do not encourage young children to get online. But if you are now a little bit older, you are mature, I actually think it would be a brilliant way for you to market yourself, to have your own thought leadership video channels or LinkedIn profile, where you periodically kind of synthesize and publish, or Medium account, and publish your own thinking. It doesn't have to be 100% original, because you're still learning, but it could be, if you have learned something and you really want to share with bigger community, or just as a means of, hey, I'm approaching, for instance, learning business management, and I want to use this channel to start sharing my thoughts. And by the way, I have practiced with local church or local community, and we found success. Church could always use help in terms of some of the business skills too. So build your personal brand, really put out something that both has some theoretical and as well as some practical application from your own experience. Showcase your ability to apply what you learn and make some small impact already. Could be big impact, frankly. Just really just start doing. Be a creator.
And I think this will probably be the last question we're going to cover. Can anyone be an entrepreneur?
Oh, excellent question. I just finished grading my students' paperwork today. And the key sentiment, all of my students, this is about 30 MBA students, was the fact that many of them said, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur until I've taken the class to realize everybody could be an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur doesn't have to be someone who starts a brand new business. An entrepreneur really is about someone who have the mindset of not settling for what already exists, but be mindful of identifying areas of improvement and really listen to the customers. It could be internal customers, and think of ways that you can create a new solution so that the situation can be improved. So everybody could be an entrepreneur, and I highly encourage everybody to aspire to be an entrepreneur, because leading change is far more satisfying than following orders and rules.
Yeah, that's great. So on that note, I think we'll probably wrap things up here. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you had some meaningful takeaways from this, and hopefully we'll see you next time at our future speaker series.
Thank you guys all.